This is Super Smash Bros. Melee, a video game released in 2001 for the Nintendo GameCube. This party game was created with great weight and expectations upon its shoulders, designed as the flagship product for the new console. However, no true understanding of the depth of what was moulded was understood at launch. The game they created was not the same one that later emerged from the code. Decades on, Melee is no longer the same game that was released. The community has wrangled the concept of Melee away from its creators through its deep and storied competitive history, one that, for the most part, has been told through the lens of the United States. The game's greatest legends, biggest tournaments and defining rivalries have often been shaped by American players and those who travel to the continent to compete. But beyond the spotlight of the US stage, folklore exists across the globe. Stories of passion, community and competition in places where the game thrived in its own way. Every country that has embraced Melee has built something unique. Its own heroes, its own rivalries, its own culture, and Ireland is no different. Fostered in dim back rooms of pubs, lit only by the faint glows of CRTs, Irish Melee has carved out its own identity. This is a scene where friendships have shaped competition, where upsets have become legend, and where the game's grassroots spirit has kept it alive through love and dedication. In a country where international travel for competition was somewhere between difficult and impossible, where players fought not just for rankings, but for survival of the scene, Melee became more than just a game. It became a community, a shared history, and a part of people's lives. This is a chronicle of the players who defined this scene, to the tournaments and the sets that became writ to legend, and to the people who kept it alive against all the odds. This is the history of Irish Melee.
Yeah, I think like the best way to start is just for you to give yourself a little formal introduction.
My name is
Take it away.
my name is Dave. I go by Deadeyedave online because I have no creativity when it comes to online handles. And when I was young, I was really good at the House of the Dead. So someone in my local arcade called me Deadeye Dave, and I was like, oh, I'll do that. Little did I know, there's a country called America where a lot of people like guns. So that's a pretty common name there. And if you've ever played The Secret of Monkey Island, apparently there's a character in there called Deadeyedave. So there's like 100 Deadeyedaves on the internet. So it's not even an original bad name. It's just a pretty bog standard bad name. And I have some connection to the beginning of the Ireland Smash scene. But I wanted to ask you, Brogue, before I tell you what it is, what you think it is and when you think it happened.
Right, so you saying that you have like some connection to the beginning of the Irish Smash scene is really interesting because as far as I could find, you are the beginning of the Smash Ireland scene. So if I'll try and set the scene here. From my understanding, in 2008, you organised and ran the first ever Super Smash Bros. Melee tournament on the island, and that was, I believe, in Dublin, although I might be getting that wrong, as part of some kind of other bigger event that I couldn't find clear information about what it was, but you were tied to something that was already going on. So that's what I've got.
Okay, that's basically correct. So good job there. So I guess if I go into my history a little bit with the game, so if we go way back to the year 2000, where Smash 64 is out, but I have not played it, and I've never heard of it. And I'm a young teenager, and my sister has a kid. I promise this will be relevant. And I ended up babysitting him a lot, sort of in the housing estate he lived with all his little friends. And this is going to be a running theme of what I'm talking about, but you can't hold things against children for how they act. So these kids, if you've ever hung out with kids, they just make stuff up and lie all the time. So in this atmosphere where I'm minding kids who do nothing but lie, one of his friends says, "Oh, I have a fighting game on the Nintendo 64, but it's not like Street Fighter. You're more sort of jumping around on platforms, and when you hit each other, numbers go up, they don't go down. And also it's like Link and Pikachu and Mario." And I'm like, come on. As far as lies, this isn't even a good one. This, out of all your lies, this is the least believable of anything you've told me. This is ridiculous. And the kid's like, "No, it's true. I have the game." And I was like, "All right, but bring it over and we'll play it." And he's like, "Oh, no, my cousin's borrowed it." I'm like, "Sure, your cousin's borrowed this game that exists." So my first introduction to Smash 64 is I didn't believe it existed. There was one notable thing between 64 and Melee in that in the American and Japanese versions of the game, there's like a 15-minute film, like a promotional movie that when Melee was released in Europe, it was taken out because we needed space for other languages. That movie was released on the internet. So I had this 15-minute video, and this was like the greatest thing I had ever seen in my life. It is just... I couldn't believe graphics were that good. And like knowing what I knew about Smash 64, I was like, oh my God, this is better than ever. If you look at Smash 64, like Donkey Kong looks like Pyramid Head. He's just made of a couple of triangles with a big triangle for a face. So the run up to Smash Melee coming out I was so hyped. But I've always found that there's like sort of three pillars of what makes a good game. And that's like, initially it is how good the game is, which is, I think, the scale most people rate it on. But I think you can like a bad game and you can dislike a good game. So luckily for me, Smash Brothers Melee was fantastic and I loved it. And then the third pillar, which is like unreplicable, is the time in your life you're at when a game comes out. And when Smash Melee came out, I was in college, I had a lot of free time, I had a lot of friends, and my friends had a lot of free time. So we played thousands of hours of this game. And there was a point as well where I got very into television, too much so. And at a point I was like, all right, I'm going to stop watching all these TV shows because abstinence is easier than moderation. I quit all television except for one show, which was my favorite show of all time, and that is Stargate SG-1. Love it. My favorite television show. And that aired Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. So all of my college friends who liked Smash Brothers and liked Stargate came to my house 8 o'clock on a Wednesday. And all my friends who liked Smash Brothers and didn't like Stargate came to my house 9 o'clock on Wednesday when it finished. And there was usually 9 of us every single week playing Smash in my house. And what we used to do was we do a 4-player free-for-all. Average to be about 7 of us. And whoever came first got to stay on and the other 3 people had to jump off. So we played that every week for my entire run of college and we just loved it. I've never enjoyed a game as much as Smash Brothers Melee in college. So then I finished college and I was active on Smashboards. And I got a PM from someone called Pikaville who was organizing a tournament in Dublin. And I have the details here. They were planning on running this tournament. They were expecting an attendance of 30 to 50 people. It was taking place 2 o'clock at UCD. And this was scheduled to take place May 16th, 2006.
Where's he getting the 30 to 50 people number?
So, this is a thing you're going to see a lot over the courses of this. There is a level of optimism and just like a dream-like lack of knowledge of what reality is. So I guess the nice answer is he's pulling it out of his wildest expectations. So me and a friend of mine, we elected to go up to Dublin to attend this tournament. So we went up and I think the total attendance of this tournament, including both of us, was 7. So there was 5 other people for us to play against. And my greatest bugbear really annoyed me is that they did the seeding based on the order people showed up. So me and my friend showed up last, so they put us playing against each other in the first round.
This is amazing. Like, so this is what I was going to ask, right? Because I was going to ask this about Tier of Smash, right? But now you've revealed that we've got an even earlier tournament, right? So we're talking 2006 Dublin at UCD. right?
Yep.
And so what is the rule set? what are they classing as a competitive tournament?
Their rule set was mad. I found a post, me complaining about the fact that Mute City was legal. I didn't enjoy playing on that. And I also didn't enjoy playing my friend. So when me and my friend had to knock each other out at the tournament, because we'd played each other thousands of times, we were just like, to hell with this. We'll just do random select. And I think we got like Mewtwo and Ganondorf. And all the guys in the room were like, whoa, I've never seen anyone use these characters. And we were like, what? Oh my God. So I knocked him out of the tournament, and then I think I either got to the final or I got knocked out before the final, but I was beaten by Pikaville, who's going to come up a lot in this story. But we played a little bit of casuals afterwards because the thing started late and we travelled up from Kerry to attend this tournament. But a notable thing I remember was that my friend picked Jigglypuff, and they had never seen someone use Jigglypuff because at that time Jigglypuff was halfway down the tier list as a mid-tier. And he grabbed one of them, threw them up, jumped and rested. And no one in the room knew that rest did anything. That was news to them.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Yeah. So our incredibly casual way of playing the game blew their mind because I think they just went to Smashboards, chose the top characters, and then like immediately started wave dashing and like short hop fast falling and didn't play out a lot of the other things. So that was not a super positive experience for us in the tournament scene, just because it was like, these guys, they're only playing like a tiny slice of the game, which is completely valid. You don't have to play the whole game, but we still found it a little bit weird. And we were annoyed that we had, I think it was a 4-hour train ride each way. And, my friend had just gone to Dublin for me to knock him out, because I think it was also single elimination. So the only other people he got to play were in casuals afterwards. So that was not the most positive experience our first time in competitive, but that was 2006. And the sort of question is, did I start the Smash scene? Is like, what is your definition of the first tournament? I think what the person who ran this did was anyone who posted in the Ireland and Europe topic of Smashboards, they sent a private message to. So that's why I imagined you didn't find out about this, because I dug it out of my private messages on smashboards.com. And this is probably a good moment to say, shoutouts to smashboards.com, because if it wasn't still up, a lot of this would be lost. So yeah, I don't mind who gets the credit for being the first tournament runner. Unless being the first tournament runner comes with a huge cash prize, and it's definitely me. But if it's just an entry on a wiki, I don't mind. That's fine. So I moved to Dublin. I was living up there for a while. And then I get a PM from, I think, bornfidelity.com. I don't know, is this a name that is still known? I think he's a Dutch player. And I do not wish to misquote Born Fidelity, so I will read the text in its entirety. I quote, "To be brief, Risky, LinkX and myself are planning on the biggest, baddest, bananaist Smash Melee tournament Ireland has ever seen. A few problems have arisen though. For one, we need the Irish to attend, preferably in vast numbers. I'm Dutch myself, and I've co-hosted over a dozen tournaments already, and I will try and coordinate this as much as possible. First of all, to get things started, I would like to ask you all where you are, blah, 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 give me your addresses, etc. It's going to be fantastic. We don't have a venue, a plan, a date, equipment, a rule set, but all we need is people to attend." So that was the PM that started the topic that sort of drew me into this. So they were basically like, we don't have a plan, but it's going to be the greatest event of all time. So that's the forum topic I came into. And I was like, hey, what's up? And they're like, we have no idea. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's sort of what I expected. And went away. So then there's lots of refreshes of the topic, which just a bunch of people going, someone should do something. Someone should do something. Not me, but someone else should definitely do something. And I had gone to a nerd convention called Leprechaun, and they had like a game room set up. And I think there was some Smash Brothers there. It wasn't a tournament. It was just a casual setup. And I got chatting with the people running it. And I was like, this is pretty neat. And they were like, oh yeah, we're going to do another event at UCD called Vatican. You guys should come along to that. And I was like, interesting. There's been some interest to run a Smash tournament in Ireland. If I could get people to come to your Vatican, would you guys allow a tournament to be run there? Not thinking it would be me running it, that I could maybe just make the connection. And they were like, yeah, sure. So I posted up on the Smashboards, and you can see it. Oh, hey guys, I found a venue. Does anybody want to run this, more or less? And nobody did. So then I was kind of like, all right, fine, I guess I'll do it myself. I guess I was just a bit older and maybe a bit more practical. So I was like, all right, guys, I've got a venue, got a time, got a date. I need consoles, I need TVs, I need discs. And you can see in the topic as well as people going, oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to play Mirth. I'm so happy. I'm going to be Falco. I've got the best Kirby. No one's going to beat my Kirby. And then I'm coming into the topics like, guys, focus. I need consoles. I need discs. No one's playing anyone if I don't bring discs. Like, get back on topic. Tell me what you're bringing. One thing I did do before we decided on a name and everything like that was I made a poster for the tournament and handed it out in game shops. And I found that poster. I think it's 3 leaflets to an A4 sheet. I printed up a bunch of A4 sheets, I cut it up into 3, and I gave it out to all of the local game shops. So then the tournament happened on the 5th of April 2008. So that was when this occurred. And according to my notes here, my biggest, wildest expectation was that 8 people would show up, because I guess I'm just more pessimistic than everyone else who was running things. But I had, throughout the day, ended up being a 2-day event. I had 30 different people playing Smash, and I had 20 I was able to convince to enter the tournaments.
Technology around Melee has advanced so much, right? That like, we've all got Wiis. The Wiis are all hacked. They've all got like every character unlocked, all that kind of stuff like built in. But back then, you had GameCubes, discs, and hopefully somebody had completed everything on a memory card, right?
Yeah. Well, we had GameCubes and Wiis, because the Wii had come out at that point, but Smash Bros. Brawl had not come out. There was a very tense moment where it's in the forum topic, but I was loading a Smash Melee save file on my own personal memory card, and I put it in the machine, and these 2 lads sat down. I don't remember who they were, and I was like, don't press any buttons a second. And we boot up Smash, and it comes up, it's like, no file detected. Do you want to overwrite this memory card? And the lad sat in the thing was like, yes. And I, with, frame perfect inputs, reached, because it was on a Wii, reached for my memory stick and pulled it out so hard. We were in like a gymnasium. I threw my memory card like 25 feet in the air just to rip it out of the Wii before this little kid erased my save file. And I don't remember if I murdered him. I probably did. He's probably dead now. But then it was not a very concentrated throw, so I think I just threw it way off. Nobody caught it. It smashed down on the ground. I picked it up, I popped it back in, and my save file was okay. So that was the tensest moment for me in the whole thing, was that kid nearly erasing my save file. And also, I think I gave my save file to everyone who was at the tournament. And I think that became the official Dublin save file for Melee for a while. So if you have a save file for Smash Melee, and I think the first name is Dave, and the second name is Vince, and the third name is Jack, that's mine. That came from me. That was the thing that came up as well at the Tier of Smash 1, because there's lots of other tournaments and events in the room with us, like a Halo tournament, Audio Surf, DDR, a bunch of other things. But Tier of Smash was so successful in that room that we slowly expanded, and I was going around to the organizers and I was like, hey, there's one guy playing Audio Surf, can I have his projector? And they were like, oh, okay, if he's willing to give it up. And I went over to him and I was like, hey, dude, I'm running a Smash tournament, you want to play Smash? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, I'm going to take your projector. So I took all of the other equipment in the room. So we started with, I think, 3 televisions, and by the end of the first Saturday we had everything in that hall, every telly, every projector. We'd just taken over everything. So that was like, we spread like a virus until the whole room was ours. And then it just expanded and expanded. And a guy who ran the Halo tournament came over to me and was like, I had to cancel my tournament because nobody showed up. Like, how did you get this many people? And at the time I was like, oh, leaflets, posting online, trying to advertise it as much as possible. But I don't really know how it was as successful as it was. First thing to say, everybody was lovely. Nobody could have been nicer on the day. It was super good vibes. There was no jerks or anything. So Pikaville is probably, at the time, was like the best player. But again, I think I've got a good appreciation of sort of objective, subjective skill levels. Pikaville wasn't that good. I nearly beat him. I think it went last game, last stock. And I was like, my competitive Smash knowledge was knowing how to kill people with baseball bats and how to kill someone who was holding a Smash hammer. So my skill level wasn't very high. So he only just beat me. So he couldn't have been that good. And then Gorysnake was sort of the second best player.
And so in April 2008, Pikaville and Gorysnake sat down to play grand finals of Tierna Smash. This is the first recorded set of Irish Melee.
And it's funny as well because I think I was not very au fait with tournaments and double elimination and things like that. So I think it was a single elimination tournament. But I did have the final be best of 3. And I got a lot of comments because I should have done best of 3 for every match in the tournament, best of 5 for all the semis, and then best of 7 or best of 9 for the finals. People genuinely being angry at me I didn't do a best of 9 final. And I was like, that's crazy. Like I don't understand tournament rules, but that seems like too many games. There was a lot of English people in the topic saying that they would attend or like saying we were doing a bad job. And if you've read me, not at the time, but if you've read me on Discord or something or Facebook talking about this later, I probably owe an apology to Professor Pro. He went on to be a very famous Smash player, so all of his personal details are freely available on the internet, and I cross-reference his date of birth, his bank account number, his mother's maiden name. At the time this happened, he was also a child, so I can't feel bad about it. But when the videos went up, he was posting on the videos going like, oh, you guys are crap, you're awful, you should come to England, we'll wreck you, whatever. So he was negative on the YouTube videos, but like, that was fine, that was little kid stuff. But also in the topic, there was other English people who were pretty down on the tournament scene, and there was lots of other foreigners or like continental Europeaners who were like, oh, I'm going to come to this thing in Ireland. And then the English were like, no, they're crap. You should go to this other tournament we're running. So the English were like anti-wingmanning us. They were staying in the topic, and anytime someone expressed an interest, they were trying to send them off somewhere else. So it's sort of like that Red Letter Media joke about the Phantom Menace. Like, in my mind, Professor Pro and all the English people amalgamated into a new character who doesn't exist that I called Professor Pro. So I sort of falsely attributed all this negativity that was going on just to him, whereas he was just like a 15-year-old in our YouTube videos talking smack, which wasn't that bad, really. I guess to go into the details, like what makes a tournament official? I know everybody talks about Tierna Smash 1 being Ireland's first official tournament, and I'm like, what makes it official? Is it the size of it or whatever, and is it, the attendance? But there was some legitimacy to it because there was a Nintendo employee at the tournament who was fine with the whole thing running. And that Nintendo employee was me. I was secretly working for Nintendo the whole time. Bum, bum, bum. So the job I moved to Dublin for was I was the Nintendo rep for Ireland. So I was traveling around the country advertising their products. I've played more Wii Sports than anyone in the world. My ability to hand out leaflets was greatly increased by the fact I was going to every store in the country anyway, as part of my work.
What?
Yes.
What?
I didn't want to...
What are you talking about?
I didn't want to dox myself in Smashboards. More than I did. I give out a lot of personal details in there I probably shouldn't. I use it, but I was working for Nintendo at the time. To be clear, I did not work at Nintendo. I worked for a field marketing company that was employed by Nintendo. But I've been to Nintendo headquarters. I've been to their bases in Windsor. I have a photo of me holding their BAFTAs. This was something I did in my spare time. This had nothing to do with corporate Nintendo. But I was like, do you guys mind if I run this? And they were like, for what? I'm like, Smash Brothers Melee. They're like, which game? And I was like, Smash. It was on the GameCube. But they're like, yeah, we don't care. That's fine. If Nintendo involvement makes a tournament official, then Tierna Smash is back at maybe being the first official one, but it was something I was doing in my free time.
It's definitely the first official Smash Ireland tournament. Is it the first official Nintendo-backed Melee event? Because that would be amazing. I'm still kind of reeling from that. It's just like finding out who Kaiser Soze is. It's kind of like... Let's just move on from Tierna Smash onto like how we go forward, because I think it's as interesting. So it's not like Tierna Smash happened and suddenly there's an Irish scene and you're having tournaments every couple of weeks, right? As far as I can tell, and again I'll do the thing where I'll say what I think happened and you can correct me, right? As far as I can tell, there's not another tournament for a year, and it happens, and then the only next tournament is Tierna Smash 2, which happens almost exactly a year later at Vaticon again. I'm assuming in the same rooms, although there's a lot less, as far as I can tell, there's a lot less like documentation from that. So I don't think there's like videos, and I don't think there's, unless I couldn't find them, and I don't think there's like photos from that event. So to me, it's insane that you go like, we did this, it was a roaring success, and then you go, see you in 12 months.
Yeah. So you are correct. Nothing you've said is incorrect. So from my perspective as a TO, there's lots of rules I didn't understand. I didn't understand how to capitalize on hype cycles. But fundamentally, I never wanted to be a TO. I just wanted to play Smash Brothers, but no one else was capable of organizing anything. I think it was the Vatican staff were hugely impressed with Tierna Smash 1 because it was just visually it looked very successful and it generated more people coming to the event. So they emailed me and they were like, hey, can you run this again? And I was like, oh, I don't really want to, but yeah, I guess I should. If there's a big hall offering me electricity, space, chairs and televisions, then I guess I should. So for Tierna Smash 2, you can see I posted the topic. So then if
That's
you're
good.
looking at Tierna Smash 2, I don't know, did I edit it out? But I asked Nintendo, I was like, oh, hey, since Brawl came out, I assume you've got like a bunch of keyrings and t-shirts and posters and stuff. I'm going to run a tournament here. Can you guys give me like a bag of freebies? And they were like, yeah, no problem. So they sent me a box of goodies to give out at the tournament. So I gave out prizes to everybody. And you can see people in the topic being like, how did you get Nintendo to send us stuff? And I'm just like, don't worry about it. It's fine. So I didn't tell any of the guys I was working for Nintendo. And nobody was suspicious about the amount of Wiis or copies of the games I had.
Yeah.
I don't know why I kept it secret. I was just like, I don't know. I know it's an Irish thing. Like I didn't want to seem to be bragging, so I just kept it all very secret. I purchased an Asus. It was an Asus Acer laptop, which is, I don't know if you've ever seen those, but like they're not much bigger than the palm of my hand. We got tournament running software on it. I forget what, I think it was like Tournament Bracket Organizer or something. Like Smash GG and everything people use now wasn't invented yet. Everything wasn't invented yet. We're back in the Stone Age clacking rocks together. But we got this little laptop to run it, because if you look at the photos of Tierna Smash 1, everything is paper brackets. And I forgot to mention in Tierna Smash 1 that I didn't understand the concept of buys, and I didn't understand the concept that like the tournament should be divisible by 4. So in the top 4 of Tierna Smash 1, I had 5 people. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to do now. So at that point when I had 5 people, I think I did a round robin where everybody played everybody else, and then whoever won the least got eliminated. So this time with the proper tournament software, we knew that we had to like put in buys and like have things go. And I think we did double elimination. But I think also, unfortunately, I listened to the English, and I think I did do either 3-5-7 or 5-7-9 for the matches. So that was a huge mistake. Never listen to the English. Like, don't trust them, guys. Don't trust them. So what I ended up doing for Tierna Smash 2 was Melee was Saturday and Brawl was Sunday. So that's the way it worked out. Everything was much more organized. People brought lots of kit. It was great. I think it basically went the same way. We had a new dark horse who I think came 3rd, but it was just like Tierna Smash 1. Pikaville beat Gorysnake twice, put him in losers. Gorysnake beat me twice, put me in losers. And at this time as well, we had much higher attendance of people from UCD who were running Vatican who weren't part of Smashboards, who I think they heard about the tournament last year, so they showed up this year. So it was like a ton of new people who I never met before. So it was pretty well attended.
This is where it all starts going downhill, right?
Yeah.
You know?
You can pick the absolute day it went downhill, and that would be the Sunday of Tierna Smash 2, where it was the Brawl tournament. So I'd never run a Brawl tournament before, so I didn't know a bunch of things. So 2 things I didn't know that were super relevant is how long Brawl matches go and how difficult it is to get the save data. I didn't know that you couldn't copy save data over between Wiis. It's a function you can do on the Wii. You know, remember you did that on the GameCube, you just load everything up on a memory card. You could put the Brawl data on a memory card and bring it to different machines, but Brawl data in particular had copying and moving disabled for that save data. So in order to use a completed copy of Brawl, you would need to have all the characters unlocked on that Wii, and that Wii had to come to the tournament. So I had no help, I had no equipment, so it was super stressful. I remember in the middle of the day phoning a friend of mine who lived in Tala because I knew he had a completed Brawl save data. So I had to drive mid-tournament from Rathmines, whereabouts UCD is, to Tala to get his Wii to bring that to set back up so I had more setups. So it was just super messy. I mean, it's on me as the tournament organizer that I didn't have enough kit, but I did have a lot of people who promised kit who just didn't show up. So like, and I was sort of realizing as well that I didn't really like Brawl, which isn't a shocking revelation now, but at the time you're like, oh, it's a new Smash Brothers. Like, Melee was so much better than 64. Brawl is going to be so much better. And there's just something about it I like. So Tierna Smash 2, the Sunday just broke me. There was a point as well where it went so over time that I think, was it the best of 7 or the best of 9 final? It ended up running so late that a bunch of the people who attended were going to miss their train. So I was like, all right, I can't have you guys missing your train. I piled a bunch of people into my car. And while I was gone, the UCD caretakers kicked everyone out of the building. So everybody just got kicked out, and the brawl of Tierna Smash 2 didn't finish. So like I was that wore me down so much. That was crushing for me to just have no help and no equipment and to try and run this thing myself. And in my head I was like, all right, it's all worth it as long as the community comes together and they make something happen that I can just attend. I really want to just attend something. I don't want to run it. And then the final thing is, you can see on the Tierna Smash 2 topic, someone else is like, oh Dave, you should really run stuff more than once a year. And I was like, oh, that's it. I'm gone. I'm done. If everybody's default response is to just ask me to do more, the whole experiment is a failure. I can't make this happen without me, and I don't want it to be on me. So that's it. I'm out. So I didn't announce my retirement, but I didn't want... I think Vaticon came back the next year and was like, hey, can you run Tierna Smash 3? And I was like, actually, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I think someone from UCD tried to run it without me, and I don't think anything really happened there. I told them pretty early on it wasn't going to be me. But I think they didn't want to give up on like the money and the attendance that the tournament had generated. So I think they were trying to do it on their own until you work out the super boring logistics. Is a lot of hard work and planning, and they just didn't want to do that.
Right, so I think like the end of Tierna Smash 2 marks the end of the scene for a while.
Yeah, it's certainly the end of the scene under me and my secretly Nintendo sponsored T-oness. I think a casual Smash scene maybe cropped up in Dublin after the documentary.
You've got all these new kids who are really trying at the game, and a couple of prodigies to boot, and then you've got the old heads coming together. I think that's probably the only time that happened, right?
Probably, yeah. Oh, that was my first time seeing good Smash players in person. Like, I watched Mint play his brother, and after a couple of seconds I was like, oh, this is never happening. I'm not gonna take a stock off of either of these guys. And there was one other weird little thing where at some point I got a Facebook notification that someone was running Tierna Smash in Dublin.
I remember when I started and I was like I was one of the first tournaments I was doing. I was originally going to call it the same name as what your man Deadeyedave would call it.
You know, when he was getting into TO, and like everyone who gets into TO, and like when I got into TO, and you're really excited about your first tournament, right? And you want it to be big, and you've got these pie in the sky ideas. He was like, oh, I'm going to like, as the scene is like reviving big time, I'm going to take the name Tierna Smash and use it to, to name this tournament, and that will be like an homage essentially to what came before. But my understanding is he didn't ask you, and so he posted like, I'm calling it this, and you were like, who are you, bro?
yeah. So
I was like, oh, that's a sick name, and it'd be kind of cool to like get people to come, and like maybe like old people would be like, oh, I'll go that, because I didn't really get anyone that wasn't around in the scene. There was no like scene as far as I was aware outside of those like YouTube videos that I found.
I think if people see it as a Tierna Smash, they're going to assume I'm running it, and I'm not running it, so like I would prefer if you didn't use the name.
Oh yeah, but I remember just being like, it's a big deal, who cares?
And then he was like, oh, it's weird you're upset about this.
So yeah, then your man got in contact with me, and I thought he'd be like, oh yeah, it's fine, because I guess this is from my perspective. If someone was using like an old tournament name, I'd be like, oh, whatever, like who cares? But he got pretty pissed off about it, and then I changed it. So
that was the one little thing where I was probably a bit ruder to him than I should have been, but I just didn't. It felt a bit like, sort of like identity theft.
But then I guess now, like with more hindsight, if someone did that with Schism without talking to me about it, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? So look, it's all like, 25-year-old Dublin was like, what's the big deal? And then now 35-year-old Dublin is like, no, I kind of get it. So.